Welcome to This Explainer. Grab your metaphorical magnifying glass and field notebook, because today, as Bible explorers, we're excavating one of the most bizarre and honestly fascinating lost mythologies in religious history. We are looking at the story of a man who vanished without ever dying. Okay, let's dive right into this. We have this chillingly brief verse from Genesis chapter 5, verse 24. It simply reads, "Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more, because God took him away." I mean, think about that. No long explanation, no dramatic finale, just a man who existed one day and disappeared the next.
Section 1. The Man Who Disappeared. The Ultimate Biblical Anomaly.
As a Bible explorer analyzing ancient texts, you always look for rhythms, right? Genesis has a very specific, almost monotonous heartbeat for the early patriarchs. It usually goes, a man lived this many years, he had a son, and then he died, over and over. And this brilliantly illustrates how Enoch completely breaks that predictable pattern. Instead of the expected, and then he died, the text just shifts. He walked faithfully with God, and then he was no more. He literally bypasses death entirely. And then there's this really fascinating detail. According to the text, he lived exactly 365 years on Earth. Now that number perfectly mirrors the days in a solar year. In ancient texts, math is rarely an accident. This specific solar connection gives us a huge hint. It points to a man deeply attuned to the heavens and the literal mechanisms of the cosmos. Section 2. A Lost Book Unearthed, Piecing Together the Fragments. Now, the physical history of the text that bears his name is an absolute archaeological thriller. It was originally written around the 3rd century BC in Aramaic and Hebrew, and it was highly influential for centuries. But by the 5th century CE, it vanished from the Western biblical canon. Kind of like the man himself, actually. It wasn't until 1773 that a Scottish explorer rediscovered it beautifully preserved in Ethiopia. And then, incredibly, in 1947, ancient Aramaic fragments were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, which finally proved its ancient origins for sure. But who actually wrote it? Well, scholars classify the Book of Enoch as pseudepigrapha. This basically means it's a falsely attributed work where later authors use a famous past figure's name to lend authority to the writing. So it wasn't actually written by the historical Enoch. Instead, it was compiled over several centuries by a bunch of different authors. They borrowed his mysterious heaven-walking persona to give some serious weight to their own apocalyptic visions.
Section 3. Watchers and the Nephilim, the Fall of the Angels.
According to this text, God didn't just leave early humanity to fend for themselves. He sent down exactly 200 angels, known as the Watchers, to serve as guardians and guides for mankind. But things went south. Instead of guiding humanity toward virtue, they rebelled. They fell to earth, seduced human women, and corrupted mankind entirely. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the surprisingly everyday arts these angels supposedly taught humans. We aren't just talking about dark magic here. I mean, yes, they taught sorcery and the making of weapons, but they also taught metallurgy, astrology, and how to make cosmetics. Yeah, you heard that right. According to Enoch, the secrets of warfare and the secret to a great smoky eye were both forbidden divine knowledge that was wrongfully shared with humanity. The consequences of this interference were pretty monstrous. The illicit union between these fallen watchers and human women produced the Nephilim. This was a race of fierce, violent giants. The Book of Enoch objectively claims that the violent rampage of these hybrids, along with the deep corruption caused by the Watchers, were the actual reasons God had to intervene and cleanse the earth with the Great Flood.
Section 4. Apocalyptic Visions, Decoding the Heavens.
It helps to know that this massive compilation is actually composed of 5 distinct treatises. We have the Book of the Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, the Dream Visions, and finally the Epistle of Enoch. Together, they cover absolutely everything, from the mechanics of celestial movements and heavenly luminaries, all the way to deeply moral warnings for future generations. It's the whole shebang. Within the Book of Parables section specifically, we encounter a super fascinating concept. The text introduces a mysterious divine figure known as the Son of Man, who is chosen to enact final judgment on the wicked. What's incredible for any Bible explorer to note here is how strikingly this language and imagery parallels later New Testament texts. It shows a really clear bridge of theological ideas taking shape over time. Let's move to and see how this builds, because to understand these apocalyptic visions, we have to look at actual history. The Book of Enoch is full of intense doom prophesied against evil kings. Why? Well, look at the real-world crisis happening at the time. In 167 BC, the Greek king Antiochus IV desecrated the Jewish temple. These apocalyptic visions were a direct response to that real-life political oppression, basically offering hope that corrupt earthly rulers would soon face absolute divine justice.
Section 5. Why was it excluded? The canon controversy.
This brings us to a true detective's question. If the Book of Enoch was so widely read and taken incredibly seriously by early church fathers, and even alluded to by New Testament writers, why didn't it make the final cut into the canon we know today?
So the crucial point is that it ultimately came down to severe historical and theological clashes. First off, there were major authorship inconsistencies, since, as we discussed, it was compiled over centuries. Furthermore, it heavily promoted a solar calendar, which clashed directly with the traditional lunar calendar of the Second Temple. And fundamentally, its core theology, the idea that the root of evil originated from fallen angels rather than human sin, was a viewpoint that mainstream groups really wanted to distance themselves from.
But it wasn't lost to everyone. While it was essentially banned in the West and excluded by most mainstream Jewish and Christian canons, it was actually quoted verbatim in New Testament books like Jude and 2 Peter. And, most importantly, it was entirely preserved as sacred canonical scripture by the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and the Beta Israel community. Their traditions acted as a crucial, vital bridge in religious history, basically saving this incredible text from complete oblivion.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply provocative question. How does a banned text, literally lost to the West for over a millennium, continue to shape our modern understanding of angels, demons, and the cosmos? As Bible explorers, it forces us to ask how much of what we consider mainstream belief today was actually born in the margins of history. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and thank you so much for joining me on this Explainer.